Water is a matter of life or death. As human populations rise, demand increases, and climate change persists, today, the threat of a major water war is very real. The protagonists, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. The beef, their share of one of the world's most iconic rivers, the Nile. Born out of Ethiopia's highlands and spilling into Egypt's Mediterranean coast, more than 300 million people rely on Nile waters. Shared among 11 countries, the river basin makes up more than 10% of the total area of Africa. In 2011, Ethiopia launched a mega $4.8 billion project known as the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or GERD for short. Located close to the Ethiopian-Sudanese border, it is expected to be operational by the end of 2018. The hydroelectric dam is said to be the largest in Africa and the 7th largest in the world. After enduring decades of food and water insecurity as well as energy shortages, GERD will change this reality by generating more than 5,000 megawatts of electric power, transforming Ethiopia into a regional energy hub with electricity as its main export. Addis Ababa has full support of its neighbors, who are also set to benefit. But there is one country that majorly opposes the project: Egypt. Tensions over the Nile date back centuries. In 1874, when Egypt's Ismail Pasha sought control of the Nile, the Ethio-Egyptian War began. It lasted 2 years and was won by Ethiopia. But the Nile issue remained unresolved. An agreement signed in 1929 and 1959 between Egypt and Sudan gave Cairo near complete control of the Nile. Problem is, of course, the treaties were illegitimate due to the existence of colonialism. And more importantly, Ethiopia and the rest of the Nile Basin countries were not signatories to both agreements. So exclusion, mistrust, and hostility increased in the following decades. In 1979, Egyptian President Anwar al-Sadat famously said, "The only matter that could take Egypt to war again is water," a direct threat to Ethiopia and any future Nile River project. But in 2011, instability caused by the Egyptian revolution provided the perfect opportunity for Ethiopia to launch its GERD project, set to change the power dynamics across the Nile Basin forever. Egypt relies almost completely on the Nile for water and agriculture, but Cairo is suffering from a water deficit of about 10 billion kiloliters. Any more reduction to this deficit could cause what Egyptian officials have characterized as a catastrophe of unimaginable consequences. This scenario may become very real as Ethiopia builds a 74 billion cubic meter reservoir set to severely reduce Egypt's water flow over the next 7 years. To put it in perspective, a 1 billion kiloliter reduction would cause more than 200,000 acres of land to go out of production, 500,000 farmers to be out of work, consequently affecting the livelihoods of 2.5 million families. Understanding the severity of the situation, under President Sisi, Cairo has made efforts to find a solution with Ethiopia. Negotiations started in 2014 but have failed, with the latest round of talks in December 2017 proving unsuccessful. Complications between the two countries have been made even worse, with Sudan supporting the Ethiopian mega project, awakening the rumbles of war. Warmongering in the region has been ongoing since 2010, when leaks revealed Egyptian plans to build a base in Sudan to target the GERD Dam. The then Ethiopian Prime Minister Meles Zenawi responded to this rumor in 2011 by stating, "I'm not worried that the Egyptians will suddenly invade Ethiopia. Nobody who has tried has lived to tell the story." Tensions reignited during the rule of Mohamed Morsi in 2013, when politicians were heard live on air suggesting Egypt should attack Ethiopia. Morsi went on to say publicly that Egypt would, quote, "defend each drop of Nile water with blood." Sudan, that historically sided with Egypt over the Nile, switched sides after Morsi was toppled in a coup in 2013. The shift broke the balance, isolated Egypt, and empowered Ethiopia. Despite a period of warmer relations, the language used and developments on the ground continue to paint a hostile future. Yet President Sisi recently said that Egypt was not prepared to go to war with Sudan or Ethiopia. But time is running out, and solutions remain non-existent. So the question remains, will the Nile continue to be a shared source of life, or will it become a bloody stream of death?